Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jason Jensen and you're watching Jason Jensen Trains. I have a very special episode for you today. Recently, Jeff Grove called me. He is the owner of Carolina Craftsman Kits, and he asked me if I would be interested in working with him designing a brand new kit. And he had suggested doing a very large paper mill. I was thrilled, very honored that he was wanting to work with me on such a large kit. So I went to the drawing table and came up with this design right here. Now, as you can see, this is a very large kit and would be very expensive. So what I had suggested to Jeff was that we break it into 3 separate structures and offer it as 3 separate kits. And then if you'd like, you can order all 3 kits together at a discounted price to make the entire paper mill. But each structure, so this will be one, the long one in the back will be another one, and then this large one over here will be a separate one. And each one of those structures will have signage for the specific company, the specific name that building is used for. So, and then if you order all 3, you will get signage for the large paper mill. And the large paper mill is going to be called Wiley and Son Paper Mill, named after Todd and Brett Wiley, who have an amazing podcast called HO Scale Customs. So after all 3 are completed, I'm actually going to run a contest on the channel and give away the 3 separate structures as kits. So I will pick 3 separate winners and they will each get one of the kits. I haven't worked out all the details yet, but just know that in the future, when these are all completed, I will be offering a contest on the channel. So stay tuned for that. And just be checking Carolina Craftsman Kits website for details on this, as far as pricing and when you can start to pre-order and when the kits will actually start shipping. So today what we're going to do is we are going to start on this structure right here. Now, the parts that Jeff has sent me is based on this design, but nothing is really finalized yet. So you are going to see me putting this together, but possibly adding doors here and there, or windows, or making changes to it to come up with the final design and the final model that we will be selling a kit of. So let's head over to the workbench and get started on this. So I've laid out all of the wall sections. Now, the large building right here will be covered in sheet metal. We're not doing corrugated metal, it's regular flat sheet metal. And the kit will come with a heavy cardstock that we will cut all the sheet metal from, and then I will show you how to make it look like sheet metal. So the first thing we have to do is brace the walls. Okay, so all of the bracing is done on the walls. I did brown strip wood on mine just so that you could see it better for the demonstration. But when you order this kit, it will come with strip wood like this for the bracing. But again, I just did mine brown so that you could really see it. I'll run through this quick so that if you are putting this together at home, this may help you. On these two walls, I put the bracing all the way to the edge. Then on the long walls, I moved it in 1/8 of an inch so that it fits. And then on this is the small structure that goes on the side. I put the bracing all the way to the edge on the long sidewall piece. Then on these, I moved those in 1/8 of an inch. So when we put this together, it fits like that. Then on the roof, there is a cupola on the top, and again, I put my bracing all the way to the edge on the small pieces. Then on the side pieces, I made sure I cut them so that I left room for this piece. So it'll go like that. And that goes on the roof. Okay, now there's two ways to do this. You could paint and weather all of your sheet metal and then glue it on to your walls while they're flat. Or you could assemble it, then glue on all of your sheet metal. I'm going to glue my walls together, and then what I'm going to do, and you certainly don't have to do this, I'm going to spray paint the outside of it black, just so that if there's any cracks or we choose to lift any of the sheet metal, the black is what will show up underneath it, not the white. You could spray it also with a dark gray primer if you wanted to. I also wanted to point out, make sure when you are putting your bracing on that you are putting it on the correct side. Make sure it's the side that has the writing on it, not the other side. I went to glue my walls together and realized that I already made a mistake, and I'm going to show it to you so that you don't make the same mistake on yours. Most structures, when you put them together, there is a 1/16 inch piece of strip wood that runs down the corner. Like that. So this does not get strip wood put down the four corners. So you have to put your bracing to allow that to go all the way to the edge like that, so that you have a nice clean edge. So when you're putting the bracing on the sidewalls, not only do you have to move them in 1/8 of an inch from the edge, but you also have to move it in the thickness of this cardstock material. Okay, so far this is where we're at. This gets put up on the roof. I haven't put these together yet because I want to weather those flat, then glue them together. But this is all put together, and you can see the corners are nice and butted up against each other. So I was going to paint this black, but I was out of black. So I used a gray, and this is what I used. And you can see it says deep gray. Okay, for the sheet metal, this is what comes in the kit. It's a thick cardstock. It's thicker than construction paper. And I am going to cut this into strips that are 1 inch wide. So I'm marking every inch. Okay, as you can see, I've cut all of my strips. Now I am going to take that same gray primer and prime these. Now, I'm going to mist it. I'm going to go heavier on some, lighter on some, and try to leave the natural paper color a little bit showing through on the bottom edge of each strip. Okay, so I got those spray painted, and I'll show you up close what some of them look like. So as you can see, it's not real even. And then I actually took some brown, and right as I was spraying them gray, I held the brown spray can really high over it and just did some misting of some brown over it. So the next step is to cut these into panels, and you just want to do random sizes. You know, some thick, some thin. Okay, I've got all of my pieces cut. There's a lot of them. And then we're going to start to rust them. And I'm using raw umber, burnt umber, burnt sienna, and raw sienna. And I think that I am going to work from dark to light. So we'll start with the raw umber first. So you just want to lay out your pieces and then start applying your color with the sponge. Now I'm actually skipping burnt umber, and I'm going to go to burnt sienna. And I'm using a new sponge. I'll just keep 3 or 4 separate sponges for the colors. Actually, I think I need my burnt umber too. Okay, now for the last color, I used raw sienna, but then I mixed in some yellow ochre with it too. And you can see I'm not doing as much of this color, a little bit. We're going to take our pastel chalks, and we're going to scrub right over the top of them, so that the powder is falling onto the paper. I'll show you a couple of these. Let's take our slate gray and silver. We're going to try something new today. I love trying new things. So we're just going to mix slate gray and silver together. That way it'll dull it down. It won't be quite as new. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Okay. Now, we're going to have to be very careful because on this, we only want to go towards the top. The bottom of the plates would be rusted, where the top might not be quite as rusty. I like the look of this. I will show you up close what some of these look like. Now what we want to do too is we're going to mix raw umber. You know, I already have this color. Sorry, we're not going to mix it. You could though. I was going to mix raw umber in black, make a really dark brown, but I have this chipping color from AK. It's just a really, really dark brown. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the edges that dark color. I did want to show you quick how I lay them out. This kind of speeds up the process. So you can do your first shade of brown, go back, do your second shade of brown, third, fourth, do all your pastel chalk powder over it, and then do your gray silver on the tops of them, and then slide them off, lay down your next rows, and it does speed things up. And as you saw before, I hold it with a knife or a pair of tweezers while I'm dabbing my paint onto it. But if you wanted to, you could lay down some double-sided tape and then stick those on there and they wouldn't move at all. That would make things a lot easier. I'll hold one up that I just went over with the pounce wheel. So I don't know if you can see the holes right at the bottom. So I found a little easier trick for you with the painting the edge of the paper. I'm just taking a black marker. You can use a Sharpie, anything. Boom. Boom. Easy. So I've got two of the sides finished. So let's work on the back, and I'll show you quick how I handle the windows. So place it where you're going to put it. Now you can see it starts to curl because it's paper and the paper is getting wet. So if you just kind of slightly move it around a little bit, it seems to set up really quick. And then just press it, and there it is. I've mentioned this before, but I always lay my glue on the side so that if you stand it up, then when you turn it over, you got to wait for that glue to all run back down. Where if you leave it on the side, you tip it up, the glue's there ready to go. Okay, now we'll start our next row. And you want to overlap it just a little bit. This is a pretty new blade. I think that really helps. If the blade was dull, it might not cut as easily through. Okay, that wash completely dried. And now we're going to do some dry brushing. We're going to use light taupe. You always want to test it on another piece, or like I'm doing off to the side, to make sure you don't have too much paint on it, on your brush. Okay, I'll finish these up and I'll glue my acetate on the back of them and then put them all in place. Now, before we put in our windows and doors, we're going to use a flat file. And we're just going to go through and file all of the openings. So I've got all my windows done and the doors are all done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a divider in here. And so I've cut two pieces that are the same length, just black paper. Let's see, let's find the center. So somewhere in the center on the paper, cut a straight line through both pieces. Then put them together. Now that way you can't see all the way through the structure. So after I glued the acetate on the windows, I painted some of the window panes with some different colors. I used antique gold, light avocado, and desert sand. And I'll show you up close. Here's one of the small windows that will go in this. So it goes like that. I'll show you the back of the window. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is stain our walls. We have this little structure that we have to build that goes on the side here. So we'll paint this and stain them. And the first thing we're going to do is use light buttermilk. So we want this to look like it was painted white at one time and all the paint is chipping off of it. So we're just going to go over each board, and we're not doing it solid, we're just lightly dragging it over it. Okay, now we'll mix up a stain. We'll use raw umber. And we'll add just a little bit of black to it. Very small amount. Oh, lots of... We'll test it first on the back. Okay, so I'm just going back in with the light buttermilk. Just very lightly. Putting a little bit on towards the top. Really focusing on the center of the boards. I almost forgot that when we put this together, we need corner pieces. So I stained my wood and I'll let it dry, and then I'll take my light buttermilk and lightly go over it and glue those on the corners. So our little shed is done. Now before I glue this on, I've been trying to figure out a color. I want to put a stripe along the bottom of the structure. And you can see I've been playing around with some different colors. And I'm kind of leaning towards this color. So it would look like that, but all the way around. So it's the same technique that we did on the little structure here. We're just lightly dragging our brush over the section. And leaving a lot of the rust at the bottom showing. Okay, then we'll also do the same thing on this. Probably would have been a little easier to do this step before the windows and doors were put in, but oh well. Now, if you're wondering how I mixed this color, it is turquoise blue, Hauser medium green, and then this is primary blue. Very little, just a drop of this, just to darken it up just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to take a rust-colored pastel chalk. Scrub my brush over it, and it's just a short-haired small brush. And just here and there, from that rust up top, we're just going to streak it down over that color. For the roof card, I'm going to trim mine. I like mine to only hang over 1/8 of an inch all around. So I've got my divider glued in, and then I also put a 1/8 inch strip across the top, and then one in the middle on the sides. Now we'll glue the roof card on. So I made a mistake by gluing that piece inside that 1/8 inch strip through there, because we have to put this on the roof. So I'm simply going to very carefully cut that out. So I don't know if you can see, I am just marking it at the bottom of the peak. And then I'll draw a line across there. So I've spray painted the construction paper first with deep gray, and then while it was still wet, and it wasn't a solid coverage, I just kind of misted the gray over the paper, and then took black and did a misting over it right away. So I've got all my strips cut, and I cut them 3/8 of an inch wide. And now we'll just start gluing them all on. Next, we're going to paint our cupola that sits up on the roof. And as you can see, it has lines scribed in it. We're going to make the sides look like wood, and we're going to use the same technique as we did on the wood here. And we're actually going to do it white like we did up here. And then it also has these frames that get added to it. And then here's our little roof card that we've cut. And again, I cut 1/8 of an inch off of the sides so there's not as much overhang. I'll paint the other sides, but I'll put it on here just to show you what it's going to look like. Has a nice tight fit, which is nice. So the kit comes with a little hoist, and that'll go right above that door right there. And then it comes with a smokestack, and I'm going to cut one of the plates that we had left over from our siding. I'll do that right now. So we'll glue on our plate, we'll drill a hole, and we'll put that right there. Then it comes with a chimney. What you can do, and I'll show you quick. And then we'll just take some super glue and glue that. So I got the detail parts all painted and put on. Next, we'll build our water tower that sits on this roof right here. It's a simple little kit. Very simple, basic instructions. So let's quick do that and we'll install it right here. Okay, this is a quick and easy build. I've put this water tower together a few times. It's actually a separate kit that is sold through their website, Carolina Craftsman Kits. I'll show you. And you can see it's $14.50. Just a great add-on to the top of any structure. And as you can see, it goes together really quick. There's our main water tower. Here's the base that it sits on. And if you want to, you can glue all your individual boards on, or the kit comes with this. I need to trim it a little bit more. Okay. Now we'll take our I'm going to use super glue. Okay, we'll just hold it there for a little bit. Let that super glue set up. Now we want it to sit level on this roof. I'm going to try just cutting the back leg off. Okay, I think that'll work. Nice, and this is the little roof that goes on it. And it even has a little hatch that you glue on the top. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is paint this. So I sprayed a gray primer on it. Now, light taupe. And again, we're not going to paint it solid. We're going to have it kind of streaked. We're going to put like lines in it. So some of that gray is showing through. Because we're trying to create wood texture. So you can see the brush I'm using. Hopefully you can see that. It's not real flat, it's kind of old, but it's allowing me to put lines on this, which is creating a wood grain. Now let's put a wash over it of raw umber. And we'll mix a little black in it to darken it. Be careful not to get it too wet. You don't want to let the water puddle up on it. You don't want it to start warping. Okay, while we've got our stain mixed, we might as well quick put a stain over this. This is fragile, so you want to be careful. You don't want to get it too wet because it would warp pretty easily. Now we'll take our light buttermilk and paint the boards on the water tank. And just like before, we're going to do each individual board. And we'll go heavier at the top and lighter at the bottom. You want to lightly drag it to give it a peeled paint look. If you feel like you got too much paint in some of the cracks, very simple. Just take a sharp number 2 pencil and run it down all of the cracks. I think I'm going to take the time to do it also on these lines. It really helps it stand out more. I'm going to go a little bit more green with the rooftop to give it more of a, maybe a copper patina. And maybe we'll put some blue towards the edge. Now I'm going to put a wash over the water tank. So it's just sort of dulling down the white, making it look a little aged and dirty. The same wash that we did on the white down here and up here. So now everything matches. And I'm going to create a wash, I think, for the rooftop, or possibly just, let's try adding some pastel chalks to it. We'll get some rust colored pastels, kind of an orange. Okay, that definitely helps age the whole thing. Got in too big a hurry and forgot to put the bands around the tank. So I'm going to show you quick how I put the bands on. I just put a bunch of glue on the paper dip the one end in it, and then hold it down and run it through the glue. My glue is starting to dry, so gotta hurry up here. So that string is wet with glue, and it just sticks to the side of the tank. So I got the big doors put on. So I went on the computer and designed some signs. And I simply printed them, cut them out. First, dirtied them up with some pastel chalks. Then took a sponge and sponged on some rust using burnt umber, and then just glued them on. Next, we have to put a platform here and a staircase going down. For that, we're using two 1/16 inch square pieces. Then two of these, and they should be in the kit. They should be marked with dark green paint on the ends of them. These will be for the supports, the cross sections that go on here. So these are going to be used for the sort of the stilts, and these will be the cross sections. Then we have two stair stringers, and then for the actual steps we'll use this, and the end of it should be painted yellow in the kit. Then for the railing, we're going to use this, and the end of it is painted dark brown. The platform that you walk out onto is from the door right there. So I've mixed up my turquoise color, and again I just used desert turquoise, Hauser medium green, and a small dot of primary blue, just to darken it up a little bit. Okay, so I've mixed that up. Now I'm just going to simply paint all my pieces. So using super glue, I glued my platform on there and then put one stair stringer going down the side. Next, I'll add some supports. Next, I glued on my posts. These are 2 inches and 1/8. 2 and 1/8 inches. Now, I'm going to put some support pieces on it. And I've just put some a little bit of glue on my palette. Okay, now we have the bottom supported. Now we're going to do a couple angled pieces. Now if you want to do more, if you want to make an X or have more going this way, you can add as much as you want to on it. So with super glue, I glued the stringer to that top post. Now what I normally do is start with the bottom stair. I'm trying to do this so that you can see it. We'll hold that for a second. Now I'll put one at the top and one in the center. Now we can just switch to using regular Elmer's glue. Okay, and there it is. You can add more supports if you'd like, or more posts for the railing. So I went over all of the bare wood, and I actually used raw umber and added a little bit of water to it and went over the edges, and it almost gives it a metal look. Okay, I'll give you one last close-up look at everything. I hope you enjoyed today's video. This is only part 1. This is the first structure in a series of 3. You'll be able to buy the structures individually or all 3 of them at a discounted price to combine them to make one large structure. For more details on this, please visit Carolinacraftsmankits.com. When you visit their website, click on Shop and then click on Coming Soon, and it will show you all 3 kits and the pricing and all of the details on it. So please, again, visit Carolinacraftsmankits.com. Well, again, this is only the first video, so tune in next time for part 2. I've already started the structure and I am extremely excited about it. So until next time, happy modeling, everyone.